2 years to flatten the curve turned into years of turmoil for citizens, some whose bodily autonomy was stripped away from them, others who were divided against their friends and family, a two-tiered society that existed between those who got the experimental jab and those who did not. All the while, those who felt they needed justice from the vaccine pushers themselves, in particular those who were injured via the experiment, were often under the impression that vaccine manufacturers could not be held legally accountable because they were granted immunity. Today, I bring you the speech of a Victoria-based lawyer named Umar Sheikh, who during a conference called Reclaiming Canada, recently put on by We Unify in Victoria, shared how that belief isn't true for Canadians, and how his law firm has not only brought forth legal action against Pfizer, but Moderna too.
We got this case of this amazing woman named Sheila Lewis. And so we took over that case from the Justice Center, who had worked tirelessly on the charter side. And we said, okay, we're going to take a different approach. We're going to try and reset a bunch of things and take a medical malpractice approach. So we took that approach. It was an enormous amount of work for Sheila, and she's going through a lot. She needed an organ transplant. And as John can tell you, this was one of the most difficult cases to deal with because we're under a gag order. We can't talk about the hospital, the doctors, what organ she needs, what the problem is. We can't talk about anything, even in public filings.
If you don't do anything, then it speaks volumes, where you let the very people that helped vote you in down to either tell me you're either going to help me or you're not. Don't blindside it anymore. I don't say, well, you're going to listen to this, or you're going to do this, or you're going to, wait for this. There's no more waiting. Time is out. Like, I'm at the end of my rope now. I ain't got much longer. And I need your help now. Because if you don't help me, I'm going to die.
And so we were able to successfully get her back on the transplant list after a long fight in Alberta. The problem with that, this is a bit emotional, the problem with that is, she used to call me Umar. I don't know why, that was her favorite way to pronounce my name. But the problem with that was as soon as she got back in hospital, within 1 week, Sheila Lewis passed away. And it was devastating to all of us who knew her and worked on her file. And so we said, okay, we've taken a hit. Let's keep going. And then we get contacted by this father named Dan Hartman. And his son, Sean Hartman, was 17 years old. He was a hockey player, perfectly healthy young man. And 33 days post-injection, the family found the body next to his bed upstairs, and he was gone.
They sent him home, and on the morning of September 27th, his mother found him dead on the floor beside his bed. And all he wanted to do was play hockey.
And so we sat there with this case, and we knew what it would take to take this on. And there was all of this nonsense out there that you can't sue Pfizer. They're immune. Everyone was telling me, and I was like, okay, let's find out if they're immune. And so we formulated a lawsuit against biotech in Germany and against Pfizer US and Pfizer Canada, and filed that for wrongful death and negligence against them on behalf of Sean Hartman, who had died. That lawsuit was the only one, it is the only one in North America against Pfizer that's currently in place that actually has a chance of getting discovery out of Pfizer. The US granted Pfizer immunity. Canada did not. And so I was able to exploit that hole. And so right now we're back and forth with two of the largest law firms in Canada, and they're willing to put billions to prevent disclosure of evidence. We will get that evidence. We're not going to stop, and so we're hard at work at that case right now as well. But so that's heartbreak. And then we get another phone call from a wonderful mother of two twin girls, and the father's giving them a bath, early 30s. 1 week post-vaccination, his heart explodes in front of the kids. He dies next to the bathtub. They live in a faraway place, so the ambulance doesn't get there for 20 minutes. And so the kids are still in the tub. He's lying on the floor. And this one, for some reason, the government of Canada admits, yes, it was the vaccine. We actually have the first written admission from the government. So we sued Pfizer again. And this time on behalf of that family, and are taking them to court on that. And I know my time's almost up. I'm going to talk about one more case. And so then we got another tragic case that we took on against Moderna, which has to do with a young lady who was perfectly healthy and is now a paraplegic as a result of the vaccine. All that to say that the safe and effective narrative wasn't there. We started getting evidence early on from these companies as part of our process. We were demanding disclosure. We were looking at documents. We saw a 26.7% adverse reaction rate in Pfizer's own data. 26.7%. If they had told us that it's 26.7% likely you might get a side effect from this, would you have gotten the vaccine? Now, this room obviously not. But the reality is the vaccine campaign wouldn't have been nearly as successful. They've hidden data, they've manipulated data, and all of this is going to be coming out in the next few weeks.
At Rebel News, we've been telling you the other side of the story to all things COVID since the beginning of January. We gave a voice to the vaccine injured when it was considered a conspiracy theory to do so, and we continue to shed light on the truths that were buried over the last 4 years. Go to nomoreshots.ca to sign our petition and chip in what you can.